Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Village Law SEQFC preview show. I'm Darren Lutton, and we've got just the two guests with us so far this evening. We've got Jason Hall, who's the Technical Director of the Southwest Queensland Thunder. G'day, Jason.
G'day, Darren. I think Mike Mulvey might be upset you calling me the Technical Director, but...
Right, yeah. You were last season, though.
Mike's our technical. I was Director for Football Performance. I wasn't the TD, but yeah, look, I'm still manager and assistant coach with the first grade team this year.
You still clean the toilets, though, don't you?
I did. Never done that. No.
Fair enough. Our second guest this evening is the coach of North Star FC. It's Lee Cunningham. Lee, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Forgetting names, and there's only bloody two of you.
It's going to be a slide.
Oh, dear. All right. Lee, I'm going to start with you. When people saw that North Star were in the SEQFC competition, a lot of eyebrows went from there to way up there. You've taken on the job and you've surprised people already. I can say that without a doubt. Tell us about what attracted you to the job and how it's all been going.
Well, what attracted me to the job was the opportunity. Obviously, Gordon went back to North Star as the TD, having been there previously, and I worked with Gordon over at Peninsula Power for a number of years, and he sort of helped me in my progression coming through the juniors and trying to push myself to go further and further, and had in his mind that he knew I wanted to coach first team football, and the phone call came and a little bit out of the blue, but it's an opportunity too good to pass up. So that's what attracted me there. Yeah, and it's been a good start. I think we had to do a complete rebuild. So I certainly saw all the comments online about the FQPL2 and how lots of teams, maybe should or shouldn't be there. And look, I won't lie. I use a lot of that and make sure to put it in the dressing room every chance I get and let all the players know what's being said about them every chance I get, and just use that for motivation to keep working hard and prove ourselves worthy. And yeah, I hope you're right. Like, I think so far we've had two pretty close losses in the last two games, but before that, two pretty decent victories. So we're certainly showing that we're competitive with everyone in the league. And the big test this weekend, playing Caboolture, who, I think are everyone's runaway favourites, and hoping we can give them a test as well.
Now, you were a junior coach at Peninsula Power and also at Moreton Bay. How many of those players that you worked with are now in your squad?
Look, a reasonable amount. We completely rebuilt at North Star. Obviously, like, the comments and the thoughts were due to previous year's results. And to be fair, they weren't great. And the club knew that and brought Gordon and myself in and sort of, tasked us with the rebuild, which we've worked pretty diligently at. Gordon especially. Gordon knows every player in Brisbane, I think. So I don't want to take all the credit for that. That's certainly the majority of his work. But I would say in the first team squad, probably 7 or 8 players that I'd worked with previously. But to be fair, half a dozen of them from the same team at Power years ago that were the strongest group in their youth for about 5 or 6 years. And I got them for a season and we did pretty well, and just had a good affinity with a lot of those lads. And they're a really great bunch, and they certainly make up a big part of the core of the team.
All right. Now, you played a game last night. We'll come back to that shortly. Jason, I want to move over to you now. You played an FFA Cup game on Friday night, a 4-1 win over Toowong. Yeah,
it was a good hit out for the boys through to the 6th round now. We've never been through the 6th round before, so a little bit of history for Thunder there. Look, Toowong obviously playing in the BPL competition, a couple of levels down from where we're playing, but still very good side, no real standout sort of players, but they were a very well structured team. And look, it was only 1-0 to us at half time. We ran away with it a little bit in the second half, but it was still quite a tidy game. So yeah, you never know what can happen in those cup games.
And how's Mike Mulvey going as technical director at the club? Because of course Mike Mulvey is the technical director at your club.
Mike is the technical director. Yeah, Mike's excellent. He's really brought another level of professionalism to our club. Very focused. I think most people are aware that we work very closely with some of our biggest schools here in Toowoomba. We are probably a little different to what Lee's just said. Rather than trying to build teams and recruit players, our club's 100% focus is on developing our local players, which we have a benefit because we don't have competing clubs up here, so we can get the players. So apart from our 2 Italian visa players, all the rest of our senior team is locals, and Mike is really big on that. He's taken on also the grammar first role as well as our TD. So he's still involved in the coaching on that side, but from our club perspective, it's really about educating our coaches. And yeah, like I said, just brought another level of professionalism. His football brain is excellent. He's got a very different way of thinking to a lot of the TDs we've had previously, and he's really added another level to our club.
All right. Now, as we mentioned before, it was an FFA Cup weekend with not too many catch-up games in the NPL, but we'll start with that competition. We'll have a look at this weekend's fixtures. And to be honest, there's probably just the one game that sticks out, and that's Lions up against Olympic. Jason, I know that you keep an eye on these things, and Lee, feel free to jump in if you've got an opinion on any of these matches. I'm sure you watch them as well. But that's the big game this weekend, right?
Yeah, look, my Olympic were actually my pick at the start of the year to win the NPL, and they started quite well, but the last couple of games they haven't really performed like I thought they would have, and Lions have probably been a little bit in the same boat. They lost a couple of players at the start of the season. They did sign a couple of good players, Max McCullough, of course, from Wynnum Wolves, who had a great run in QPL last year, and I see Alex Jovanovski's just left Moreton Bay to go across the Lions under the current transfer window. So they're obviously strengthening their team. So, look, I think no doubt both of those teams are going to be in the top 4 in the NPL at the end of the season. It's a really open NPL race this year. It's really hard to pick between Penn Power, Gold Coast Knights, Lions, Olympic. I think they're sort of the 4 standout, and Moreton Bay aren't very far behind.
Yeah, we, of course, had Royce Brownlee on the show last week. So we'll just have a look at the fixtures this weekend. We've got Gold Coast Knights up against Redlands, East up against Peninsula Power, Lions Olympic, Capalaba hosting Logan. I reckon that'll be a really interesting game, one to keep an eye on. Magpies Crusaders up against Brisbane Royal Youth, Sunshine Coast Wanderers, Moreton Bay United. We'll have Paul Arneson from Sunny Coast Wanderers on the show next week. Brisbane Strikers up against Gold Coast United. Lee, from those games, any of the other ones sticking out for you as a point of interest?
Got to put Moreton Bay and Sunny Coast for me. Having spent the last few years at Moreton Bay and having the privilege of going up to Sunny Coast and playing a pre-season friendly against them this season as well, I've had a good look at both those teams. Moreton Bay are performing exceptionally well. They're doing a great job. Fantastic to see some of the boys I coached out there in the last few years breaking into that first team, particularly Will Edmiston and Zach Kerpel, both doing a great job, both captains for me in under 18s while I was out there, so it makes me very proud. And Sunny Coast Wanderers are a really well-drilled team. They're physical, they're strong. They gave us a bit of a hiding in pre-season and still made sure to go and demand the penalty that would have given them their 8th goal, should have been given after the match. So they're one of them teams that they will fight to the death for everything. So I think that'll be a great game to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Brisbane Strikers, Gold Coast United. I think if Strikers are going to win a game, they might target this one as something where they could possibly get some points, but we'll see.
I don't think they can win a game.
You don't think they'll win a game?
I honestly don't. No. I mean, Logan just took Will Carabram from them as well up front. He was kind of a bit of a shining light for him. So I think they're really going to struggle this year.
I hope they find some form. There's a few boys that I worked with out in that setup as well. And yeah, they're definitely struggling badly, but fingers crossed they can turn it around at some point.
So looking at the ladder, Peninsula Power on top, I think I might have mentioned this on the show last week. It feels like they're under the radar on top of the ladder.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Same as last year. They were under the ladder last year and ended up premiers. So yeah, they're an interesting side.
They're so consistent. They were that strong years ago when I was out there, and I think it's maybe just expected that whatever league they're in, they're going to be up the top end because they've got quality players. They never stop recruiting and they're always competitive.
And they're building those results on their defence. Only 4 goals conceded so far. Gold Coast Knights are also on 15 points. Brisbane Roar Youth on 13, off to a great start to the season. Guys, again, this is something that we say every week. It's just a matter of whether Raw Youth can hang on to those guys. And if they can, then they can make a run. I can just see some of the other clubs going to be throwing money at those youth players and turning their heads and getting them out of there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough prospect, the Raw Youth. I think like they're looking really strong this year. But I think it's a pretty well-known fact around the league that the Raw youth teams all play in a particular style, and it sort of does make life a bit hard in the back end of the league. So whether or not they can continue in the second round when, you know, they're trying to build players for the A-League. So, you know, they absolutely have to do what they do. But for, you know, savvy coaches and teams and maybe some more experienced players in there, it does give them a slight advantage going into the second half of the season.
Lions in 5th and Olympic in 6th. I can't remember the last time I saw that ever happen. So
might not stay that way long.
No, probably not. Probably not. And Capalaba and Logan, and shout out to those guys. They're Logan making good fist of it here in their promoted season. And Capalaba, they were a team that I tipped to get relegated. 3 wins so far, doing very well for themselves. Should be a good game this weekend. All right, now, Jason, let's get to your strength here and have a look at the FQPL. What's your take on the season so far? Is there an improvement in the quality this season? Is it about the same? What's your take?
No, right across the board, all of the teams that we've seen and played so far are stronger. It's definitely a stronger league than what it was last year. We've played. You look at a team like, say, South, who did win their first game last week, but we beat them 3-0 in our first game, but they were a really strong team and they hung in there right to the end. It was just a little bit of our quality that got through. You look at teams like Holland Park. We scored right near the death to beat Holland Park 3-2 at home, and they were one of the teams people were sort of picking to be relegated. Right across the board, I think the competition this year, the level of the league is much stronger than what it was last year.
And he came against Rochedale, the 4-3, the heartbreaking loss at the end. Take us through that.
What a game, yeah. Look, it was a pretty good game. If anyone's got to watch it, there was a pretty free flowing game, and even though despite the 4-3 scoreline, the defence from both teams was quite strong. Rochedale, their first 2 goals were probably worldies against us. Alex Warrilow hit a couple from well outside. Alex Warrilow and Greg Shishia well outside the box, and would have scored in any league in the world. So a couple of good goals. We fought back. We were down 3-1 with about 12 minutes to go. Got back to 3-3. In extra time, we shot and hit the post, and from that, they went to the other end of the field, and Graham Fife does what Graham Fife does and scored. So we lost 4-3. But look, good game. It was very close, and we were always expecting that, between sort of us, Rochedale, Brisbane City, it's going to come down to the wire in all those games, and 1 goal difference in both those teams, and we played them this year.
We had you as a guest last season, and you picked out this moment in a game against Logan where they scored I think it was a last-minute goal to draw. Was that a sense of deja vu with Fifey scoring that goal?
Oh, no, look, not really. I mean, that goal last year was our goalkeeper tried to dribble Adam Edgar, who got the ball off him and scored. And to be fair, that was Jace Hudson. Jace has been probably one of our best players this year. He's been outstanding in goals. And no, it wasn't. Look, our team's got a different mentality now. We kind of expect to win and do what we can. So when we got back to 3-3, rather than parking the bus and settling for a point, our boys were going for it. They wanted to win. They thought they could score another goal in the last couple of minutes, and we with a coat of paint from doing that. So no, there's no regrets. Obviously, it would have been nice to take something away, but we were sort of looking at 3 points or nothing. So.
For sure. You're taking on Western Pride this weekend, who've had a delayed start to the season, but the games that they have played, they've done really well.
Yeah, look, they've only played the 3 games against probably bottom of the half teams, but we played an FFA Cup game against Pride. It was actually their first game because the first couple had been washed out, and once again they were very strong. I think they were probably a stronger, more across the park, a stronger team than what they were last year. They obviously lost Yuta Hirayama up front, who's gone to Brisbane City, but like I said, across the park, I think they're a stronger team. We ended up winning that game 4-1, but it was a pretty close game. And look, we're expecting a really close game again at home this week.
Just looking at the other matches, we've got Wynnum Wolves up against Southside Eagles. That's Friday night game. I might sneak out to that one.
Southside Eagles
up against Holland Park.
Southside Eagles they've turned it around this year. They're a very strong side. I think Wynnum's probably the one team I think that maybe isn't at the same level. Wynnum and Mitchie have probably not performed as well as what they did last year, but once again, still strong teams.
Mitchelton are hosting Sunshine Coast Fire, and South United against Roachdale. That's a local derby, and Brisbane City have the bye.
Well, South Roachdale was one I'm looking forward to after the FFA Cup game they had, where South rolled Roachdale, and I think Roachdale got 3 red cards for players, and their coach got a red card. So that was only a week ago, and they're playing each other again this week. So that'll be an interesting game.
Yeah, Lee, have you taken much of an interest in the FQPL one?
Yeah, look, we were lucky enough to play both Western Pride and Ipswich Knights in pre-season, so that really helped get a measuring stick for my team. So interested to see how both of those go, because they were both really... The big difference between them and us on those 2 games was that they were organised and disciplined for 90 minutes, and we showed patches of good football and then patches of ill discipline and still learning each other and getting used to it, settling the team in. So that's sort of been a measuring stick for us for where we want to go. Those teams with that real strong consistency, neither really hurt us badly repeatedly, but they just didn't give anything away and were patient. So, they're happy to stay compact and work the football and wait for their opening and go and take the kill when it presents itself. So that's certainly a standard we're looking to work towards.
Yeah, definitely. Should be good. That Wynnum Wolves Southside Eagles. Definitely going to make my way out there Friday night. Should be good. All right, Lee, let's get to it. FQPL 2.
Yeah, there's one match in particular I'm looking forward to.
Now, you played a game last night up against Grange Thistle. You lost 1-0. Tell us about it.
Oh, we just, unfortunately, I don't think we did enough in the final third last night. Coming off the back of a really tough game against Taringa, who are going to be one of those teams at the top of the table, where we were excellent defensively and unfortunately went down to a pretty horrendous penalty decision late in the game, with a player getting up off the floor from an offside position, backing into my goalkeeper and being awarded a penalty somehow. We just defended so much in that game, and it was a really very, very touch and go game, with both sides being a little bit more cagey than usual after scoring a lot of goals. And coming into this game against Grange, I don't think we got back to our free-flowing best just yet. The previous the first 2 games, I think we scored 12 goals in the first 2 rounds, and then having to go to a bit of an arm wrestle and then readjust and bounce back and go and look to play that attacking football that we're trying to do again was quite difficult. And first time we've been held scoreless so far, so that was probably the most disappointing thing for me, and didn't do enough in the front third. We defended really well. We had a good share of possession, and we didn't do enough with it.
What's been the mood of the clubs in this competition? Is there a sense that it's a new frontier and you're breaking new ground with this new tier?
Yeah, look, I think it's been, I would say it's been a slow burn. I think the players and the coaches, and to a certain extent, some people around the clubs being included, were really excited. But, online, it was met with a lot of negativity, I guess. I'm not really sure why. It's pretty obvious Football Queensland's building towards a more traditional promotion relegation system through the tiers and to give everyone equal opportunity, which I think is a great thing. And if you get put into one of these leagues and you're not good enough, well, you go back down. So I don't really see, outside of a season or two of adjustment period, it being that big of a deal. We're not that far removed from NPL clubs getting beat by BPL clubs when the NPL was first formed, and that took a bit of time. And now you look at the NPL, it's far away stronger than every other competition, and you don't see NPL clubs going to BPL clubs and getting a hiding anymore. So, these things, they take time, and we're really excited. We are so grateful for the opportunity to be in there, and we want to prove that we belong there, which is the goal. The main goal for us, firstly, was to build a squad, which we've done, and now it's to get everybody around North Star excited and try and bring the crowds back, because they've not had a lot of great results in the last few years, and we're hoping that we can turn that tide and get everybody back down watching and get a bit of atmosphere going at the club.
And how are you going with that?
We're getting there, yeah. The tide's really turning. We purposely booked as hard of a preseason as you can get. I mentioned before going up to the sunny coast and getting a bit of a hiding, playing FQPL 1 teams that are well established. So we didn't win many games in preseason, and that probably a brand new coach in myself, brand new players that that the guys at the club don't have a real affinity for, and a lot of bad results. It wasn't looking pretty. Then we played Albany Creek in the FFA Cup at home, and very, very close game. The boys showed a lot of heart against a really good team that are playing leagues below where they could be, to be honest. Like Albany Creek could easily be higher up.
That was a great game, Lee. That was a great watch, and congratulations to your club for your part in that game.
Thank you. And yeah, like the next week, that was when the tide turned for us, and I got a lot less negativity and a lot more keep going, you're doing the right thing. That's more exciting football than we used to. And since then, it's been, a lot easier. I think they saw maybe this might take more than 3 weeks to build a new team. Let's give him a bit of time.
All right, so let's have a look at this weekend's fixtures. We've got Coomera up against Virginia. So that's a battle of the cellar dwellers. You've played both of them already, haven't you?
Not played Coomera yet. We played Virginia a couple of weeks back.
Right, yeah. What's going on at Virginia?
It's very interesting. So I'm a bit of a football nerd. So I challenge anyone to have watched more FQPL 2 minutes than I have this year. Virginia play with possibly the most unique system I've ever seen. They play a 4-4-2 with a diamond midfield, but the 2 wide midfielders stretch right out to the touchline. And when you play out from the back, which we like to do, they go man-to-man across the back 4 and the 6, and they virtually invite you to play a transition game with them. And if you watch them, which I do, and you realise that maybe you just knock the ball past those first 5 players and take the midfield, then there's a real opportunity to go and hurt them, which we did. It was far more direct than I ever like to play. But unfortunately, if you present that opportunity, a lot of coaches are going to take it. I've watched a lot of Coomera, and they try to play good football. I'm not sure where it's going wrong there. So this could be interesting. I've got to be honest, I probably fancy Virginia to get the job done. Their players and their ability probably don't reflect the score lines they've had so far.
And your match, Saturday night, 6:15, O'Callaghan Park, is up against the mighty Cabo Snakes.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be very much styles clash because having watched a lot of Caboolture, I think their defenders are banned from taking a second touch. So but my boys are going to get the test of a lifetime dealing with as Route 1 comes.
Ouch.
Yeah, well, that no one's laid a glove on them yet, so I can't knock it. Like, it's working for them. They're scoring a lot of goals. They're runaway favourites to win the league, and let's be honest, they've got a lot of players that have played at higher levels than most of the other players in the league. And if that's how they want to play, then absolutely they're right. But yeah, for me, it's great. It's the ultimate test for my boys. Like, this is as physical and as direct as a team you're ever going to play against. And if you can deal with this, then it's an excellent football lesson learned.
Yeah, we played Caboolture in a pre-season game at Stanthorpe, of all places, because Cam Cristani's from Stanthorpe, obviously, and captaining Caboolture, and we've got Hunter Murphy from the Stanthorpe team last year. So Stanthorpe actually asked us to go there and play that game, and they were very strong. We once again rested a few players. Our 2 Italian visa players didn't play, or Pasquale played about 10 minutes, and then the referee asked us to take him off, or he'd send him off because Cameron Cristani had been needling him, and he got a bit upset with him. So he pretty much played without them. So they did beat us there, but they're very, like you said, a very strong physical side, and just in behind the whole game was all they were doing.
The other two matches this weekend are Sanford Rangers up against Magic United and Taringa hosting Grange Thistle. Lee, what do you make of those two games?
They're going to be two cracking games. I fancy Magic as a bit of a dark horse in the league so far. I think it's very early days, but I don't think their results show their quality. We went there in round one and played a bit of a cracking game of football, being 4-1 up. They got back to 4-4 and we got them at the death and won 5-4. It was an amazing spectacle of a game, like one of the most exciting games I've ever coached. And then they played Caboolture, obviously, and got beat there. I thought they maybe were a little naive against Caboolture. They had a lot of the ball and started to send probably too many players forward, considering how quick that counter is going to hit you. And, you know, the beauty of this season, you get to play everyone 3 times. So I think they'll learn a lot from that. And I think they'll be right up there by the end of the season. And yeah, Sanford, I think, are showing a bit of quality as well. Like it's an interesting one. They're probably not heavy scorers yet, but they're not getting, they're not conceding a lot either. And they do control a lot of possession. So obviously Grange beat us last night, so they've got a lot of quality in there as well. And like Caboolture, they play a very direct style. If they get ahead, they're going to stop the game as much as humanly possible. And they've got a lot of smart footballers in their team that really know how the game works.
And Taringa were on top.
Yeah, well, Taringa beat us the week before. They've got the top scorer in the league. Karen Bassis up front. He's got a lot of goals. Really finds good positions, gets himself into great spaces to get the tap-ins, but can score from all over as well. And their midfield, they get on the ball, they switch it from side to side, they hurt you wide, and if you get stretched, then they'll come down the middle and score. So Taringa's a really good team, and I think they might push Caboolture at the top of the table. I'm actually really excited for when those two teams play.
All right. Look, that's the wrap of the competitions at the moment. Jason, just a couple of questions before we finish up. The fact that there's only one team being promoted this season, has this affected your strategy this season in any way, shape or form?
No, not really. I mean, we knew that at the start of the season there was only one team being promoted, same as last year. So we know we've got to win the league to get back to where we want to be, and that's no secret. That's our goal. We won 15 games out of 20 last year, and that still wasn't enough. So we figured we have to win more than that this year to get promoted. So we've obviously lost a game to Brisbane City and a game to Rochdale. So those games against those two teams will be big ones in the second round. But as I said, the league's very strong this year, and any game you could slip up. So week in, week out, we've got that sole focus about the game we're playing, getting the points from that game before we worry about the next one.
And how's Clive Berghofer this season? Are you still got fixture congestions with rugby at all, or is it all plain sailing this year?
No, all pretty much plain sailing. One of the local rugby league teams is playing their home games at Clive Berghofer this year, but we organised that at the start of the season. That's actually why Brisbane City, we were supposed to play down there, but we switched our fixtures around because our stadium wasn't available. So it was good of Matt Smith and Brisbane City to do that. But the rest of the season's all sorted. All our games at Clive Berghofer, where we think we're pretty tough to beat.
And Lee, with North Star this season, it was the goal. Of course, you wanted to create the culture, get the standard of play, get all that going. But was it just avoid those playoff games? Was that the plan?
No, definitely not. We look, to be honest with you, we never thought about relegation at all. It's not on the cards for us. Never been relegated in my football career. I've never finished at the bottom of a ladder. And if you know Gordon, he's certainly not bringing anyone in to be relegated at any club he's ever been. So that was never on the discussion. It's a tough one with an 8-team league. You play everyone 3 times and there's only one spot to go up. You've got to be extremely consistent, and having built a young squad, that's probably not going to be our hallmark this season, that brilliant consistency that you can grind out every game. But we certainly think we're going to be competitive with every team, and we'd like to finish as high as possible. I personally think that football-wise, we can compete with every team in the league, and we don't want to be falling too far off the pack by the end of the season. Certainly looking up, not down.
And who do you fancy? Looking at the ladder, let's assume that it's a 2-horse race between Taringa and Caboolture. You think Caboolture will see it through?
I think Caboolture will see it through. I just think their experience and the players they've got, you know, like I still think a lot of their players could be playing in higher leagues, and they probably will be next season.
Good point. Good point. Lee Cullingham, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Jason Hall, thank you. Always a pleasure to have you on our shows. You always bring a great wealth of knowledge.
Thanks, Darren. Love being here.
Good stuff. All right, guys, that's the show for this week. We've got the Football Brisbane show coming up next. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week.
Bye.